Welcome to the Roundtable Free Speech Podcast. This is your host, Comrade Crash, and this is
Rick.
Power to the People.
We've got 3 obscure women that were fantastic, formidable individuals that you've never heard of.
Formidable and strong and what's the word? Motivational.
Overcoming.
Very overcoming. And in the periods that they are now, in an era where people are pushing that we need strong, powerful women in media. These are good examples of it.
Now, this is a good example of powerful women.
In history.
A lot of them, 2 of them that we're talking about faced overwhelming adversity. The final one we're talking about, there's not really enough to go on. I don't know how she became who she became. Mm-hmm. I know what she did when she got there, but I don't know how she got there.
There's a lot of myth mixed with history.
Yeah,
there.
so who knows? Women's rights, over the history of men, the history of humankind, women's rights in society go up and down depending upon who's in charge and what's going on.
Of course.
For instance, the most powerful pirate in the world was a woman. A lot of people don't know that. I can't remember her name, but she was it was some.
What do you mean most powerful?
She was she had thousands of ships under her command. She was in charge.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. There's been other people. Catherine the Great. We didn't cover
That's the leader of Russia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have learned it, but a lot of people know about her.
I only know about her by name. I know she killed her husband for control of Russia, right?
Laszlo.
Yeah. I don't know anything of what she did, though.
Yeah, there's been other women that have been, like a female vice president candidates. I think the first one was the lady that ran with Walter Mondale on the Democratic ticket against Ronald Reagan. The most one-sided presidential victory ever was this election.
Reagan
won over 90% of the vote.
Really? Holy cow.
But it was Mondale and Geraldine Ferraro, I think. I think that was her name. Which is undoubtedly a formidable individual,
What happened to Palin?
Who cares?
She was super, super big for a long time, and people liked her, and then...
Did you see Tina Fey? I think Tina Fey ruined him.
What's happened?
Tina Fey's imitation of Sarah Palin.
Was it super good?
Great.
Okay.
Yeah. It's good.
I know she had a show, and then after that is people forgot about her, or she didn't do anything significant.
Come and go.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan.
I thought you were.
No.
Okay.
No. Was not a fan. I liked John McCain. I did not like Sarah Palin.
Yeah, John McCain was a good. But back on topic. Who is the first person we're covering today?
The first person we're talking about is Katie Brownwell, daughter of the 1st Rhode Island. Then it was changed to the 5th Rhode Island. She was in Company 11, and she was the color bearer. That means she was the one in the middle of the line. And they don't do that now, like in, where our troops are fighting at now. They don't have they don't charge with someone carrying the flag. Mm-hmm. And why they did that is so the field commanders back behind on a tower or on a hill usually, they would watch through binoculars or one of those spy glasses, those collapsible spy glasses, and they could tell which unit was which and which direction they were going. Mm-hmm. So, you could look at, they would have the American flag and then they would have their division flag right there, so you could tell which division it was and whose side they were on. Mm-hmm. Because there was a lot of different uniforms and things, and it made it a lot easier to identify.
I think it's easier for the friendly fire accidents occur more nowadays or back then.
Probably nowadays.
You think so?
Well, yeah, because everybody's wearing camouflage.
Mm-hmm. How can they see them with the camouflage?
Back then, the red coats were wearing red. Shoot the guys in red. Even by the 2nd year of the Civil War, the Union soldiers
blue and gray.
looked way different than the other ones. In the first year of the war, a lot of their uniforms looked similar. Mm-hmm. So it was hard. Also, a lot of times you're calling in for airstrikes, and if anything's muffled, you can be up by 1 digit and blow up someone. So friendly fire is an unfortunate byproduct of war. It's just going to happen.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yes, it is. Tell you where she came from. It sounds like, like when you first read about her, it sounds like this girl came out of nowhere and she joined up for the Union and joined up for her country and everything like that. But she had military experience in the fact that she had been around it her whole life.
Okay.
Yeah, her dad was a soldier. She was in different battles in Egypt. Let's see, where else was she at? Yeah, she had experience dealing with wounded soldiers. She had been in Egypt, and she had been in, I think, India. All the commonwealths of her dad's unit.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom died when she was young. She had really long hair. She came over here, and she has a quote.
Yeah,
here.
she's Scottish, right?
Yes. Yeah, and she came over, and I don't have this quote on here, but I can recommend. I'll paraphrase the quote. She was on the boat, and she goes, "So this is America. I'm not sure I'll like the people. I kind of wish I hadn't have came." Yeah, so she was pretty cool. She came over here, and she married Bob. She married Bob Brownwell, and they got together, and the Civil War breaks out. Well, he goes, "Hey, I joined the first Massachusetts, or the first Rhode Island, I'm sorry." And she goes, "Well, pack up, Bob, because I'm going with you." So she went there. General McDowell called her the daughter of the first Rhode Island. She went in, and she was in the very center of the line. So they're marching through. They go in the first battle. First big battle was Bull Run.
Mm-hmm.
She's in the middle. She wore pants, but she had a dress over her pants. That way everybody would know it was a girl. There was 300, give or take, known cases of women serving in combat positions in the Civil War. Yes, most of them hid their
fact
sex.
that they were women.
Yeah,
Okay.
And there's a lot of things. You probably didn't want to be captured and be a woman.
Oh, I can't
in any
imagine.
army.
Yeah, that'd be scary.
Probably not even in the armies today. Do you want to be captured?
Mm-hmm.
Things along that line. She wore a dress over her
Uniform.
She had a red sash. She kept her hair long. She didn't pull it back. She wanted everyone to know she was a woman. And she carried a sword on the side of her hip because she was not allowed to carry a rifle. And that would have been stupid because she was so experienced with a rifle. This is why sexism is so stupid. She would have been a marksman.
She was that accurate.
Yeah, she was a like competition winning shot with a rifle.
Really?
Yes, her dad had taught her how to shoot. Her dad had taught her how to break down and clean and put back together a rifle. When she came over to the United States, she tried to get a job in a rifle factory, and they turned her away because she was a woman.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, to me, whosoever, hey, this person's good. Let's give this person a shot. But things were different back then. I mean, I'm very glad for all the things that women have that they can do now because of the sacrifices. She fought in Bull Run, and she had to go through underbrush, because they couldn't move the arm. They would use the roads to march the armies. Then when you get close, you just go to wherever. Yeah, you look for opportunities. You try to find out where their side's weak. You probe them in.
Now,
you have what's called skirmishers in the front.
In the
you have
Civil War,
vanguard in the back.
Civil War, there's still line battles, right? Or they're not?
Yes,
okay.
yes. You still launched in rank, and the most effective way to fire was in rank because otherwise, if you were scattered out, you couldn't inflict the amount of casualties to have a decisive win. And what you want to do is you want to punch a hole or make it around the left or the right. So you always want to split the enemy in two, or you want to cross their T where you can bear lots of guns on them and they can't shoot very much and march forward and just roll the whole thing up. Panic ensues. You shoot them in the back as they run away. You send your cavalry in. Your cavalry has 6-shot revolvers by this time and swords, and that's what you want. You want a rout. So anytime back then you could see a division moving, you had to move your division to stay in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
So what they would do is they decided to attack the rebels right in the middle. So they go marching right towards them. The rebels are waiting. The Confederates are waiting during the U.S. Civil War. The Confederates are waiting in the earthworks because they know they don't have the men that the Union does. So they got to do other things to protect their soldiers. Mm-hmm. It ends up being a rout. The Battle of Bull Run was an overwhelming Confederate victory, also known as the First Manassas. Katie Brownwell was there and was one of the last ones to leave the field. She's even identified, she's not identified by Confederate soldiers, but she's identified by Confederate soldiers saying, who's the woman that's the color guard? Why doesn't she run? Yeah, and anyway, there's even a quote from a Confederate soldier. It says, quote, "There she stood, unmoved, dauntless," unquote. That's a quote
from... What does dauntless mean?
I guess not afraid.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Bixby.
It won't do it. You don't have my voice.
Really?
Hey, Bixby, what does dauntless mean?
I recognize...
I didn't understand that.
Hey, Bixby. What does the word dauntless mean?
I didn't understand that.
All right, well,
Hey,
she's
Bixby.
Editor-in-chief, what does dauntless mean?
How do you spell out?
Got this. Just try your best.
Definition of the word dauntless.
Here's the definition of dauntless.
Not being
Showing
afraid,
fearlessness
just like I
and
said.
determination.
Right.
I guess I'm sick of being right about everything.
So the quote was, what was the quote?
There she stood, unmoved, dauntless.
Unmoved.
Like she wouldn't go back.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the men are melting around her, and she's like, nope, didn't get the order. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so
Very brave
that's
soul.
pretty cool. Yeah, Katie Brownwell, she was something. She didn't leave. Now I want to first off I want to get back to the kind of weapons because just saying battle. She was going against the Confederate Army, which had smoothbore muskets, had a pretty good range, about 300 yards with accurate. So you had a good man able to fire 3 aimed shots a minute, smoothbore musket times thousands.
The Unions had rifled barrels.
Yeah. They were facing smoothbore cannons, so the cannons would be about half a mile behind the lines, and they would fire about a mile and a half in front of the lines. So when they got within 7,000 feet of the Confederate lines, they started getting shelled.
Mm-hmm.
So she's facing what's called solid shot. Solid shot out of a smoothbore cannon is just a solid piece of metal. It's designed to skip across and do ranks. You especially want to fire that into the flanks. You especially want to fire that. When as they got closer, they closed it. They started facing spherical case. Spherical case looked like a coffee can. You'd fire it, boom, it'd come out. It would blow up and frag like a grenade.
That's cool.
And if you got even closer, and this only happened if the lines broke and you were getting ready to attack the artillery. You faced what was called canister, which was a coffee can full of like basically ball bearings, and it would be a giant shotgun shooting
Like a grape shot?
Yeah, shooting 100 rounds at a time.
Okay.
The Confederates, especially at the end of the war, generally didn't have that kind of musket balls to waste, so they would put rocks, belt buckles,
Anything.
barbed wire, glass,
Anything hard or metal. Yeah.
anything they could find in there, they would fire it in there, which it all works the same. It's just a shotgun. So that's what she's facing.
Do you see what is a bit off topic, but what German World War I pilots attempted to kill people in trenches with?
Yes.
Yeah, those
Little
railroad spikes
Yeah,
almost.
just chuck them off the side.
Yeah.
You know what the odds are of getting hit by one of those?
Yeah.
I mean, next to
that's
nothing.
they would literally drop bombs out of their planes
Yeah.
over one. That's crazy.
Yeah, then they by the end of the war they had bomb bay door bombers.
Really?
Yeah, the
Right.
Golgotha bomber.
Mhm.
I mean, it is a huge plane.
Mhm.
I think there was like a 118 plane raid over London back then.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it was something. By the end of the war, it was almost World War II.
Mhm.
At the beginning of the war, the planes. Don't get me
the
started.
beginning
Wait,
of-
I got to stop right there. I will talk to you about.
That's a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I will talk to you 9 hours on World War One.
No, early weaponry in World War II is kind of archaic.
It's still pretty good.
Yeah, it's good, but like it's pretty archaic.
Yeah, it's.
The BAR was a World War I weapon. I
Yeah,
didn't
but it
know
wasn't
about
mass
that.
produced in it.
It wasn't. It was at the very end of the war.
Uh-huh. Anyway, back to Katie Brownwell. So anyway, she's facing smoothbore muskets, cannon, bayonets, stuff like that. They're running, so the Confederates charge. When now you can retreat in order. If you have an orderly retreat, you generally don't face a charge.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's like run for your lives and everyone just takes off, the other army will stay intact and will say, "Have to double quick, boys," and they'll put the bayonet and they'll just start jogging across there, trying to stay intact to do the most amount of damage. So that way, when you run into the retreating soldiers, you got 100 against their stragglers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot better to face 100 people. If you have 100 people,
It's like a shield wall.
yeah, and you're facing 2 or 3 guys at a time, they have no chance. It's not like 100 against 100 because they're running and they're scattered. And she didn't leave the battlefield until a soldier ran by and grabbed her by the hand and said, quote, "Come on, sis, there's no use to stand here just to get killed," unquote. That's the first time she ran away. She went looking for Bob.
Her
She
husband.
found a derelict horse, grabbed it by the bit, so this proves she had military training. Or her dad
The
shared.
bit's what's in her
Yeah, her
mouth,
dad
right?
shared military training. Got the horse, rode the length of the battlefield looking for her husband. General McDowell himself said, Katie, I saw him go by. He's not out there." So it's pretty
Which
cool.
general?
General McDowell.
McDowell.
Uh-huh. So, yeah, because
McDowell.
General McDowell was in
did-
charge of the army.
Did McDowell know her personally?
Yes. Hold on, let me make sure because there was two of them. General Burnside was her commander of her division.
Okay.
So General Burnside was the one at actual. McDowell was in charge of the whole army.
Mm-hmm.
Burnside was in charge of that division.
Her unit.
Yeah, that company. I'm sure she had a lieutenant that was the company
Yeah.
commander and so on and so forth. But the general knew her by name and even gave her the daughter of the.
The title?
Yeah, and at the end of the war, he gave her a sword with her name inscribed on it that he paid for.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, she had a lot of respect. So they go back. They get their butts kicked. The Union Army does. She stays in the Army because it was only a 3-month enlistment.
Mm-hmm.
This is Katie Brownwell, daughter of the 1st Rhode Island. Well, they changed the 1st Rhode Island to the 5th Rhode Island. She's still in Company 11. And so she goes and they fight at a battle I had never heard of, which was really embarrassing to me because I'm not a historian or a scholar, but I know a lot about the Civil War. I know more than most people do about the Civil War. And the Battle of New Barn, I'd never heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's an insignificant battle.
Are you aware of the Battle of Schrute Farm?
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Come to find out that's where soldiers took refuge because they were homosexual.
Yes, yeah, away from the war.
I think that might not be real.
Is it not historical accurate?
We'll have to, yeah.
We'll have to
Ask
investigate,
Misty.
of
Yeah,
course.
have to
yes.
investigate. We'll get back later if sitcom historical events actually happen.
Of course.
But anyway, they go back. They have the Battle of New Barn. It's pretty cool. She, the battle was insignificant. They did push the Confederates off, but it was a much superior force against a much smaller force.
Mm-hmm.
There was 90 killed. Now, I say insignificant unless you're one of the 90 killed. Then I guess it's really significant. 380 wounded, including her husband
wounded.
Bob. And her husband Bob had a mini ball, 50 caliber mini ball, which is a big ball, went through his femur.
Whew.
He's laying there on the field. She finds her. She goes, "It's okay, Bob. Your artery ain't hit." Yeah, quote unquote. "It's okay, Bob. Your artery ain't
He
hit."
just got shot.
So she gets him off the field, takes him back home, and what they would do is they would set the leg, and then they would wait for the fragments to work their way to the front instead of like
That
cutting
must
them
took
open
forever.
and fishing for him. Yeah. So he was out for a long time. They went back. They worked on a small farm, and they were together. I'm not sure who died first. I'm not sure when she died. Anyway.
And that's when her and her husband left the war?
Yeah, that's when they left the war. I think they were in the war for 9 months. And, she was the daughter of the 1st Rhode Island, Katie Brownwell. She didn't hide her sex, and they would have, probably inflicted better casualties if they would have gave her a gun, because she was probably the best shot in that division if she would have been given a chance. So that's somebody I don't think anyone's ever heard of. Katie Brownwell, daughter of the 1st Rhode Island, the standard bearer in the Battle of Bull Run, or the Battle of First Manassas, a Confederate victory. But it was the beginning of a lot of serious change for this country, and she was a part of it. A lot of serious change for the good, and had volunteers of women wanting to do their part being told no.
Mm-hmm.
So, pretty good.
Interesting story.
Formidable woman, good person to know about, Katie Brownwell. I found out about her from a book that Dylan and Kayla got me called Women of the Civil War. You can find other, like I used a lot of other, researched her on the internet a lot more than, because the story you get in the book is only like 4 or 5 pages.
Really?
So you got to do
dig.
more stuff on the internet to find her. Yeah, she's really cool, very beautiful woman, and you can find a picture of her. She's got a sword. She's got everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she's pretty cool, pretty good, brave woman. I mean, I think I would have ran away.
Yeah.
When especially if I wasn't one of the first ones to run, if I was there and I'm firing my rifle and I'm trying to listen for commands and I see a couple of guys on my right, throw down their weapons and run away, and I look around and I see everyone else.
Shit!
I see them come out of their breastworks and start charging towards me, or horses coming, get sabers flashing. I'll be like, yeah, I don't even know where they're going. Yeah, I'm gonna make a break for them woods, And so anyway, she didn't do that. Her bravery was unchallenged. She, Scottish immigrant, but come to find out she had been around battle and she had been around war.
Mm-hmm.
But still, that doesn't change the fact of what she did. And that also proves that if a woman wants to be an effective soldier, she can do it.
Of course.
Yeah, if she wants to, they should be allowed to. And, in fact, asking permission from anybody for almost anything, I'm against.
Yeah.
Yeah, down with the man.
Of course.
Who you got?
All right.
Katie Brownwell. Remember the name. Power to the people.
My person of subject matter today is a woman by the name of Bessie Coleman. I did not know who this person was before I researched the topic of today several weeks ago.
Yeah, when I found out, when you was telling me about her, I was like, this woman
It's
is
different.
badass.
I never once heard about her in my entire life. Anyway,
I kind of get mad listening to people as intelligent as this one because it makes me put in place how dumb I am.
yeah, for real.
Uh-huh.
It's like I've tried my hand at several things that I thought was super passionate about. Not nearly as passionate as this woman about her particular set of skills.
Overcomer.
Yeah, but Bessie Coleman was an African American aviator, and she was just so happened to be the first black woman to earn a pilot's license.
Was
ever.
she the first American woman ever to earn a pilot license?
It just says black woman.
Because I think she was the first woman too. I think
Editor in chief.
Yeah.
Bessie Coleman, was she the first ever woman to get her pilot's license, or first ever just first black woman?
I think she was the first American
woman.
Yeah.
Okay, on top of being a black woman.
Yeah.
The first ever American woman who got their pilot license was Harriet Quimby, Quimby.
When?
It became the USA's first licensed female pilot on August 1st, 1911.
Way before Bessie Coleman
And
did.
the first woman to cross the English Channel by airplane the following year.
Oh, I
13
know
days
about
after
her.
Harriet and her friend Madeline, an American of French-Canadian descent, was licensed and began flying in air shows.
I remember hearing stories about her, but I forgot her name. Anyway, Bessie Coleman was the first ever African American woman to get her pilot's license ever.
Wow.
Worldwide. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. African American woman. I don't know about black. I don't know.
Well, I know.
Well, there were black male pilots.
I think she was the first female black pilot here because she went to, as we'll find out later in the story.
Let me continue with the story.
Yeah.
Because flying schools in the United States denied her entry because she was black. She took it upon herself to learn French and moved to France to get her license.
Because she was denied the opportunity here.
Here in the United States. And this is, I believe, 1921.
Wow.
She was denied entry into aviation schools in the United States because of the color of her skin.
Yes, and being a woman.
No, not because she was a woman.
That's right.
Yeah, because of the color of her skin. Now, being a woman also might have been a part of it because there were black World War I pilots. So I don't know. Anyway, continuing on. This would have been before World War I. No, World War I ended in 1918.
Yes.
Yeah, never mind. I retract.
On the 11th month of the 11th hour.
I retract my statement. So, in order to get her pilot's license, she learned French, and had to move to France. So, one, learning an entirely new language, super complicated,
And being fluent and where you can communicate with the slang.
and being able to read it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like that's crazy to me. And reading like manuals in French, because reading manuals in English is hard for me, and I speak English. You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean? Like I can't imagine seeing like French avionics, and then having to go from what measurements do we use? Imperial measurements.
Imperial,
yeah.
yeah.
We use imperial. She also has, if she didn't already know, the metric system.
Yep. Which isn't too hard to convert. I think you just convert by 25.4.
But it's different.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's not.
I bet you they had a red spot that
There's-
you knew the gauge wasn't supposed to.
Yeah,
go to.
there's like pounds of force, and like in the metric system, it's newtons. It's super
Mhm.
confusing.
Yeah.
Anyway, after only 7 months, Coleman earned her license from France's well-known Caudron Brothers School of Aviation.
Wow.
7 months, less than a year, she learns how to fly a plane.
Mm.
Interesting.
Amazing.
When she
What kind
came,
of planes you fly?
It doesn't say. Editor-in-Chief,
Yes.
if you could check up for us, what plane did Bessie Coleman fly?
She flew a Newport Type 82.
Newport Type 82.
Newport. Seems like I've heard that before.
She
What else would it
wanted,
be?
though she wanted, when she came back to the United States, she wanted to start a flying school for African Americans. She actually found her calling in stunt flying and parachuting, and earned a living barnstorming and performing aerial tricks.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, hey!
she was a daredevil.
On her Newport Type 82,
For
She
what?
said she had to inspect every part of it each time she went to fly. The Type 82 in which Coleman trained had one cockpit for an instructor and another behind it for a student.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
what was it again?
A Newport Type 82.
Newport.
I'm gonna kill myself.
In 1922, she became the first African American woman in America to make a public flight.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an
Strong.
overcomer.
Yeah. Not only being a woman in the 1920s, but being a black woman in the 1920s. Has a lot of
intellectual too.
very smart.
Intellectual.
That's crazy.
That proves that skin color is just a construct, and that only whoever's in charge is racist against the people that look different. It's been like that in every country, everywhere.
Of course.
You know, stuff like that. And was she ever married?
I didn't delve into that part of her life.
Hey, Bixby. Was Bessie Coleman ever married?
Sure. Here's what the internet says. By night she went to clubs in the Stroll, the center of Chicago's black community, where she saw performances by Louis Armstrong, Bessie Smith, and other luminaries. On January 30th, 1917, she married Claude Glenn, who was 14 years her senior.
Ew.
Oh, that was common back then.
Really?
Almost always the man
Is
was
that the
older.
same Bessie Coleman? Probably not.
I believe so. Here, Leon, let me just find it out. Editor-in-Chief, find out if Bessie Coleman was...
When I looked it up last time, it did not.
Yeah, it's a
She did
different
not
Bessie
have
Coleman.
one. It never. Hold on.
And-
On January 30th, 1917, she married. Yeah, that same guy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Who was 14 years her
So-
senior.
First African American woman to ever become a pilot.
Put her career first, then settle down. I like
On April 30th of 1926, Coleman tragically died at 34 during an accident. When an accident occurred during a rehearsal for her aerial show, sent her plummeting to her death.
Why are you laughing?
It's just funny to me. Like, have you heard of the Bear Man? No, this is something I
The
learned.
bear man that put on the suit and went out in the woods and tried
No.
to have sex with that bear?
No.
And then that bear turned around and killed him?
I'm sorry?
Maybe we're talking about something else.
Okay, so in 6th grade, there was, I don't know when, but I learned about this man who loved bears, and he was he was a naturalist.
The Grizzly Man.
The Grizzly Man, that was his
Yeah,
name.
they ate the shit out of
Yeah,
him.
they tore him to pieces.
Did you see his body?
Yeah, it's
His
just
femur, like they ate all the meat, and you can see his femur sticking up in the air.
it's just you know I know it sounds terrible, but when people die doing what they love, I find it so ironic, and I can't help but laugh because I have a sick, twisted sense of humor.
The Montana.
Also,
the
can you
Grizzly
imagine?
Man-
Can you imagine what was going through what was going through Bessie Coleman's mind when she was just practicing and?
Yeah, I wonder if there was a malfunction. I wonder how. I don't know. Did,
When
did
we-
you get details on
when
the
we
wreck?
when we looked it up, it was just a freak accident.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like I believe now this wasn't in the stuff I looked up. Back in the 1920s, a lot of the person that was in charge of the Army Air Corps was trying to get funds to form their own branch of the military. He would tell pilots everywhere, it's like, we need to do something spectacular that will blow people's minds to prove that that it's worth something to put money towards. So he encouraged all pilots to do crazy stunts. So you know that picture of those guys playing ping pong atop of a biplane? Army Air Corps pilots. Yeah. Now, Bessie Coleman probably wasn't part of that, but like during the 1920s, there was a huge, huge boom and people forming crazy aerial stunts.
Yeah.
And what I think it was, I bet she was trying to walk on her wings, because in the plane she was a two pilot seat. Now I don't know. This wasn't in the research. And
This is all speculation. Disclaimer.
In my research, it just says she tragically died. If I thought it was more interesting, then it's like, oh yeah, she died in a plane accident, I would have looked it up. But I just assumed she went to go do her stunt and she didn't have a parachute on, which is crazy to me. But that's probably why people wear parachutes now.
So you don't know how she died.
It was just an accident during a training session.
Okay.
For
I bet you the
airship.
fall didn't kill her. I bet you it was the sudden stop.
This is what
Yeah.
it said when I looked it up. It says on April 30th, she took a test flight with a mechanic named William Wills. Wills was piloting the plane as Coleman sat in the passenger seat.
Mhm.
Coleman immediately fell out of the open plane and died. Wills crashed the aircraft a few feet away.
How did she
and
fall,
Coleman's
did it say?
body also died.
That pilot also died.
Maybe it was
Yes.
spiraling.
Yeah, maybe it flipped upside down. It's just
And he
crazy.
knows what
It's
safety.
just crazy to me they didn't have parachutes.
Well, and also, who knows if we're getting the truth?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. This just in the research I've done, it said that she died during in an accident during a training flight for her aerial trick show.
Mm-hmm.
I just find it ironic.
And it was in Florida.
It's
Florida.
she was the first Florida man.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
Bessie Coleman.
crazy
Remember her name.
woman, a woman in the
Overcomer.
1920s, a black woman in the 1920s.
Wouldn't that racism stop her?
Smart enough to learn an entire new language, was brave enough to go to an entire new country she didn't know anything about.
And and back then, planes, that was science fiction.
Yeah.
Says back then, anyone seeing a
Well,
plane.
the Wright brothers were made fun of whenever they told people they were.
I mean, these people were seeing these planes. How that could capture the imagination of anyone who saw that.
Do you know?
Because planes and submarines, that's straight out of science fiction.
Yeah, submarines are crazy to me. I would never
Yeah.
get on a submarine.
That is something.
Did you know that the Wright brothers' first airplane didn't have any landing gear?
Oh yeah.
It was they didn't have any wheels or anything. It was basically a sled on the bottom.
yeah?
Yeah. No, I can't remember how far they flew. It wasn't very far, but
Yeah, it was still powered flight.
yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, they just stood on the ground.
And then when they did that, 1911, 1903.
It wasn't 1911. It was.
Hey, Bixby. Hey, Bixby. Bixby. Hey, Bixby.
Continue on.
Hey, Bixby.
What do you want me to do?
When did the Wright brothers first fly?
December 17th,
1903.
93. Bessie Coleman, African American woman, challenged adversity. My bad.
Yeah, and she was an expert pilot over technology that was only 17 years old.
Archaic.
17 years
Yeah,
old,
crazy.
cutting edge technology that back in that day would have been looked at as just science fiction. Amazing. Where we would look at a biplane today and be like, oh, it's basically a kite with a
I would
motor.
love to have a biplane.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, it'd be cool. Bessie Coleman. I'm glad I know about her. Cool story. Now it's time.
The
You've
piece
had-
of the resistance.
All right. Now this is one of my favorite historical figures that nobody knows about.
I didn't know about her. Oh,
One
I
of
take
my
that back.
overall
I knew about her from a video game.
favorite historical figures. I found out about her from listening to another podcast.
Dan Carlin?
And it just mentioned her because he was talking about the Persians and it mentioned the Scythians, and she sounded like a fantastic person to look up. I'm glad I did. The Scythian culture is one of my favorite. They're basically
Vikings.
they're basically Western Asia, East Asia Vikings. They are, the Middle East is actually a racist term. People don't like to say that. I don't know what the reason
People
is.
from the Middle East don't like being called Middle Eastern.
Yeah, because it's actually would be referred to as
West African.
it would be East Asia or West Asia. I don't know.
No, they're
because
west of Asia.
Yeah, they're west.
Yeah, the Middle East is west of.
Yeah.
Well, it's part of Asia, but it's on the western
Asia
side.
Minor,
Of it.
we'll call it.
Okay.
Anyway, this is Queen Tamari or Tamaris. Is two different
This
ones.
is the way I've.
One of
always
them had a
pronounced.
Y in it. One of them had an S.
IS.
One of them didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But she's the leader of the Scythians. The Scythians are mentioned in the Old Testament of the Bible, so they were pretty
The
famous.
leader of the Scythians when?
Let's see, what year was that? 530 BC.
Jiminy, that's a long
Yeah,
time ago.
530 years before Jesus. Yeah, pretty cool. So these people, now this country is like 200 years old, a little bit in that, 1776 to 1976 to 200 years, 250 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Our country would have to be twice as old as it is now to tie the Scythians.
That's crazy.
That their culture was dominant for 500 years.
How big was their empire? Do you know?
Pretty big. Like if you watch it on the ones I looked at, it like grew and shrunk,
As all do.
So like right around modern day Kazakhstan is where they were from. They were steppe people, the Russian steppe. Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkey, Mongolia, all that through there. Mm-hmm. What?
I saw a funny meme today. It was Chelsea showed it to me. It was like it was a Roman centurion like being part of the world's strongest empire of its time, and he looks like alerted and looks to his left, and it cuts to like a carpenter's son and about 30 fishermen that follow him.
You know who the first Roman emperor was that converted to Christianity?
No.
Constantine.
Really?
He was leading his men into battle, and he saw a vision of the cross in the sky and converted to Christianity, made that the official religion of Rome.
Wow. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy how God works.
It is. Anywho, so Tamri, she's the queen of the Scythians. Now, this lady, okay, it was a male-dominated society.
Of course.
Now, I read a bunch of different things where it said that women had equal rights and women did this in battle and everything like that. But the majority of everything I read on the Scythians said that it was a male-dominated society.
Well, they're warrior people, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and women were important, and they took care of them, but they wouldn't allow them to do manly things.
They're like Spartan women or Viking women.
So, the closest thing I could relate the Scythians to is land pirates. Their lifestyles are more like Vikings. In fact, it is so similar to Vikings. I have got to wonder.
You think they're descendants somewhere?
I wonder if the Vikings are descendants of them.
Really?
I wonder if they migrated north, or because the climate has fluctuated up and down several times. Way before fossil fuels or anything. So climate change is real. It's just always happened. So to simply think what's going on now, is it? I don't know, but I do know the climate has changed a lot before now. And so, man, their cultures. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Scythian cultures, and you tell me who this reminds you of. They loved tattoos and covered their bodies in them.
Vikings.
Kind of reminds you of Vikings a little bit. They loved to braid their hair.
Vikings.
They used axe, swords, and bows, but that could be most people. But generally, Vikings and the Scythians, it mentioned axes.
Axes, swords, and spears are what Vikings mostly used.
These Scythians used bows. That was one of their main things, was a bow. They had a pretty good bow and arrow.
I've never heard anything. I've never heard of the missile users in Viking culture.
But they, when they found chieftains of Scythian people, they would be buried in mounds with all their armor and all their goods,
all their worldly desires
and their weapons.
Really?
Yeah, just like Viking burial mounds, and they were mounds, not like
Vikings
tombs.
were buried with their wives too.
Yeah, it wasn't like pyramids or like graveyards like we think of. It was a burial mound, and yeah, it was pretty cool. Also, they made their living off of some moderate farming, and just going and finding a city and saying, basically, give me all your stuff, and we're going to come in there and burn it up. Or you can pay us, and then in a year from now, we'll come back and you can pay us again. Who's that remind you of?
The Mongols.
Reminds me of Vikings too.
Vikings did that?
Yeah, and the Scythians are really close to Mongols.
They're steppe people, aren't they?
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were incorporated in the great Kublai Khan's massive empire. But when she died, it took 3 kings to take her place.
What do you mean? Like they weren't good enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like one king couldn't do what she did.
Tamariz, 3 people.
She took at the height of its empire. That's who was in charge. Was Tamariz. Pretty cool. They dwelt in tents. She went to war after she turned down an invitation for marriage from Cyrus the Great, the Persian Empire of the Persian Empire, right before Xerxes. And he sends her a letter. Oh, I love you. We should join. You can be part of the welcome to the bosom of the Persian Empire. You'll be my wife. And she sends back a note. I know you don't love me. You want my lands. And turns him down. So he takes his army and he goes. He's trying to expand.
That reminds me of remember in Vikings, what did Lagatha say to the European king? What's his name?
The only person you care about is yourself.
Yeah. That reminds me of that.
But who knows if that really happened.
It's in the show Vikings, anyway.
But anyway, so he decides he's going to invade, so he can see the skirmishers of the the Scythians watching everything he's doing. So he doesn't think it's safe to cross this river. I'm not sure what river it is. And he starts building a bridge so he can safely cross the river.
To engage.
Yeah. So Tamara sends him a letter and says, why do you build this bridge? If you wish to fight, pull your men a few miles back and I'll cross the river and we'll fight over there. Or I will treat my men back and we can fight over here. There's no reason to build this bridge. So they built the bridge anyway. The Scythians are people that don't have a lot. They don't have cities. They don't have walled cities.
There's
Tent
big
villages and stuff like that are mobile. You know,
They're like Native Americans in that way.
Really similar, except they had mines and metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they had. They also you can go online.
They were similar in that they had roaming villages.
Yeah, and you can go online and see Scythian textile work, and it's gorgeous.
Really.
You can go online and look at the preserved bodies and see their tattoos, and their tattoos are every bit as in detail as today's.
Oh wow, crazy.
They, the Scythians, I don't think that Cyrus the Great had any idea what he was getting into, because their archers would mix snake's venom, human feces, and
anything to infect a wound.
Yes. Yeah, their own poison. It was mixed with blood, venom, and poop.
Damn.
So they would mix that up and dip all their arrows in it. The Scythian soldiers' quivers of arrows were made out of the leathered skins of their enemies. Their quivers that held their arrows were dead human skin.
Yeah.
The only way you could get paid as a Scythian soldier was when you turned in severed heads. So you wanted to get paid for battles, you had to decapitate your enemies, bring your heads to your chieftain, and he would give you shekels of gold or silver or
There's a lot
prizes.
of grave robbing in Scythians for that.
They used curved swords and axes were their main thing.
Scimitars.
Yeah, they were great weapons. They made their own clothes out of scalps of their enemies. These people are rough, tough hombres. And they really enjoyed pot. Pot was a big part of their cultures. When they discover a grave from royalty from Scythian times, they will have their weapons, gold, silver, and pot.
Huh.
So pot was a big part of their culture, just like it is in this culture today. You know, pretty cool. These guys, their bow was accurate up to 80 yards. They drank the blood of their enemies.
That can't be good.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people died. How many good troops died?
Well, I doubt they just like got a cup and chugged away. I bet you it was just a.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah,
okay.
I think so. Yeah, because you'll get sick doing that.
Yeah.
And and also, it's not like in the middle of battle you're just going to collect some fresh blood. You'd be getting pulled, coagulated.
Who was that? This is way off topic, but who was that? It was I believe some European royal that used to bathe in the blood of maidens.
Oh, that was the Elizabeth.
That's not Elizabeth.
It's where the vampires.
It is Elizabeth Bathory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would bathe in the blood of virgins
to try to stay immortal. Yeah, what? There's a vampire based off of her. What's her name? Carmilla. Carmilla the vampire is based off of her.
Anyway, so these people live in tents and they're very brutal people. They don't have things like they have things, but they don't have things like everyone. They don't have a surplus of wine. Mm-hmm. They don't have a surplus of whiskey. They don't have a surplus of food.
Probably the reason to become a warrior people.
On the Mongolian people, which were probably real similar. I watched this thing on cable. This nomadic tribe today in Mongols, that there's not enough grass to keep a fire going, so they process a goat. They use the goat skin.
Wait,
they put meat in the goat skin and close it up, and then put hot rocks in there to cook it because there's not enough wood to build fires.
Fuel for the fire.
Yeah,
this is a village people today.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yeah. You can go online and watch them. You can watch them do it. Pretty cool. But there's some fantastic people. One of my favorite cultures are the Inuit. We'll have to look up them. They're fantastic.
Inuit are
people up north. I refuse to call them what people call them.
Is it a racial slur?
I think they take it as an insult.
Really?
They want to be called Inuit.
Okay.
So anyway, and I don't get to decide what's insultive to somebody else. They get
That's
to.
True,
So here's the thing. Cyrus the Great sends over a small token force, but he gives them a big baggage train. So the skirmishers and the front, extreme front of the army,
the leader of the Persians,
is watching. Yeah, he sends over a token force with a huge baggage train of food and drinks and stuff like that.
A lot of commodities.
Well, anyway, Tamris's son is leading the recon force.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, he's watching. He waits till night. They come swooping in there. They kill the token force, and it's unbelievably easy. So anyway, instead of taking back off after they annihilate them, they sit there and they feast and drink. They get drunk. They pass out. Same thing United States soldiers used to do to the Native American species here. They would make sure that alcohol would get captured. So they get all drunk, they get all full, they pass out, and then while they're sleeping, Cyrus the Great crosses the river and slaughters all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Tamariz finds out that her son didn't come back and finds out what Cyrus the Great did from what few survivors, because they left survivors on purpose to tell the Scythians what's coming, you know. Tamariz finds out and she sends Cyrus the Great, says, "You've wanted battle, I will give you a battle, and surely I will quench your thirst for blood." And so they meet, and there's speculation on this because there is record of things Cyrus the Great did after this battle.
Mm-hmm.
But is that propaganda? Is that, hey, we can't let everyone know that a woman defeat our great king, you know? And it's not like they had news. It's not like in any of the far-flung empires that anybody knew what he actually looked like.
Yeah, it's so hard to like. And a lot of people just didn't have written history back then.
No, and also, you know, it's whatever people told you back then. It's whatever the official story of the empire is. Mm. And so it's not, if Cyrus the Great, if he was going to a village and he was just to ride a donkey into the village in peasant's clothes, no one's going to recognize him because celebrity was totally different back then. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so she goes across the battlefield. She finds his body. She has a flask of blood of her lover. What is his name? I'm going to butcher this. We're going to put the disclaimer out here because I'm going to butcher this name. Baltier. Yeah, Baltier. Anyway, it was a traitorous bodyguard, and he was selling information to the Persians about troop movements and stuff like that.
Really?
She found out about it. She had a flask of his blood. She had a wineskin of his blood and decapitated Cyrus the Great and picked up his head and put it in the blood of her lover. Said that should quench your thirst for blood. Anyway, the Scythians were not conquered for another, 300 years.
Scythian, is there a place named Scythia nowadays?
No, it's modern day Kazakhstan.
Okay.
So you got Russia. Mm-hmm. And then at the bottom, you got Ukraine.
A lot of Istans.
Well, you got Ukraine, Georgia and Ukraine. Then I think it's Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, then Uzbekistan, right around in there. And
mm-hmm.
then I think underneath that's Mongolia.
Why Istan?
Means land.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
So it'd be like Disney Stan if it was a Muslim place here. Yeah, that's what the literal translation to is.
Wow.
So anyway, that's who she was. It took 3 kings to take over what one queen could do. She led her troops into battle by all accounts. I'm not 100% sure she killed Cyrus the Great. Mm-hmm. But I bet you there's a good chance she did. Mm-hmm. And I guarantee you she defeated him. And the Persians didn't try to go back until Xerxes was in charge. So Xerxes goes back. He crosses the river. And anyway, the Scythians at that time were...
Xerxes was the emperor of...
Persia.
During the... what is it? The Spartan battle? What is it
I think
called?
so. Thermopylae.
Thermopylae.
I think it's the same guy. I might be mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a few Xerxes, isn't there?
So anyway, he takes his army and he crosses, and the Scythian king, she's long dead. Mm-hmm. They send one back and they said, "Hey, you can keep coming. We have nothing you want." And he keeps coming, and they send him letters saying, "Why do you keep coming?" He goes, "We're not going to fight you. Mm-hmm. There's nothing out here for you." And they even, in the letters they put stuff like, your men will never survive out here, but we can. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they finally send Xerxes a letter, and it says, "We do not wish to fight you, but if you really want to pick a fight, just desecrate the graves of our ancestors." Tells them this is the red button. Mm-hmm. But as far as just retreating across the plain, they didn't care.
It's like, we're keeping our people alive.
Yeah, they weren't going to fight unless they were going to get money out of it. Mm-hmm.
Kind of what the Russians did in World War II. Here, take all this land. You're not going to be able to survive out here.
Yeah, well, they weren't willingly giving the land.
That's true. They weren't.
Did you know in World War II, the standard Russian infantry soldier had a 500-word or less vocabulary, and a lot of them didn't even know who Joseph Stalin was?
Really?
I mean, they were peasants of peasants. These were the leftovers.
After World War I, it's just like, man, Russia had it bad.
Oh, yeah, Bolshevik Revolution. Just killing on a satanic scale. The Reds versus the Whites. It was a really really bad time. And then the book Bloodlands takes place after that, in between the two wars, and you talk about how the peasants were just exploited and paranoia, and they would make the peasants farm the food, then take the food, and then they would die of starvation.
Really?
Oh my God, it was terrible. And that's the alt-left. The communists are the alt-left. The Nationals Workers Social Party, that's the alt-right.
What was the leader of the Scythians one more time?
Tamari or Tamaris.
Tamaris. You remember the last name?
Yeah, you can get on. No, it's just that's her name.
Tamaris.
Yeah, Queen of the Scythians.
Queen
she just had the
Tamaris
title.
of Scythians.
Yeah, the Scythians are mentioned in the Old Testament of the Bible. It mentions them. It was a brutal time back then. Everybody was fighting everybody, and the most brutal was the most powerful. So, to judge people back then as well, these were a brutal people. It's like everybody was a brutal people. If you weren't a brutal people, then you didn't get to survive. The only people that weren't brutal people were islanders, and then they were annihilated as soon as they were discovered. Islanders that lived on small islands, they usually didn't have words for war or anything like that. They didn't even know what war was. Everything was communal. Everything was shared.
You got to in Ireland.
It's only when land resources get big and people start roaming that the problems happen. Because on like island nations, like if you go to the Amerigo Vespucci's, the where we get the term America. If you go to read any of his memoirs or stuff like that, he talks about how it's a communal society and how they share everything, and there's no personal property, and it's a lot of like one of them takes something off a ship, so they think, okay, we better go kill like 20 of them to let them know they can't steal. And they're just killing basically helpless people. But yeah, most of the island people weren't warlike. It wasn't until they got to the Brazil or something like that they started running into warlike people. Yeah, it's
Crazy.
something. Yeah, so everybody was brutal back then. The Scythians were just really good at it. I didn't do this research, but if I was just reading what I know and going on speculation, I would say they were eventually folded into the Mongols. I'll guarantee you they were probably part of the Golden Turks, the Golden Horde. Probably part of them were in that culture and stuff like that.
What is the Golden Horde?
The Golden Horde is after the not Kublai Khan, but
Genghis?
the one after that. Genghis was the first Khan.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was the first Khan that united all the tribes. But there's Kublai Khan, and there's another one that always
Descendants of Genghis, yeah.
And anyway, it finally broke up, and they got broke up into 3 different empires. And it was only because of the invention of
alcohol.
No, guns.
Guns.
Because the Mongols never met their match. In Vietnam, they got defeated because they relied on horses so much, and the Vietnamese, anywhere you could use horses, put stakes to where the horses would fall in it, and impale the horse and maybe the rider, stuff like that. But if they would have wanted to, they could have went back and took it. It was a small force that was down there. So the biggest navy, military navy ever was the Mongol Navy.
Really?
Yes, yeah. The Mongol Empire was something, man. And I don't have enough time. We would have to talk. Oh my gosh. 25 hours to cover the Mongol history. It's something. Or you could just listen to my man Dan Carlin's Wrath of the Khans. It's a 6-part series. It's really good.
Dan Carlin's great.
Yeah, so anyway, Tamaris of the Scythians, remember her name. She was a formidable woman that you probably never heard of.
What were the 3 women we covered? What was your first
Katie
one?
Brownwell, formidable woman.
Bessie Coleman, first African-American pilot in the United States.
You got to think, Katie Brownwell, she was fighting, it was almost a modern war. In fact, the Civil War is considered the first modern war. I consider the Crimean War the first modern war. But anyway, the Franco-Prussian War would be more, but most historians, which they're certainly more qualified to make this statement than I am, considered the Civil War the first modern war because it had rifled cannons. It was the first war that had armored ships. It was the first war.
Ironclads.
I think it was the first war that used hot air balloons. And I might be mistaken on that one. And but I know the other 2 are correct. And it was it had a submarine in it. It also had rifled breech-loading cannons. It was the first war that had a ship that had a movable turret that could target. It also had the first, which the Gatling gun is not a machine gun. It's a rapid-fire rifle.
Really?
The reason is because you are manually cranking it, and it's rotating manually. A machine gun, you pull the trigger and it goes off. Yeah. So the gases in a machine gun put pressure and causes the mechanism to work and everything like that, which means it's a machine. It's doing it on its own. It's automated. Gatling gun is not a machine gun. It's a manually cranked, multi-barreled rifle is all it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's considered the precursor for I think the first machine gun was called the Maxim gun, actually.
I think you're right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So anyway, look up these women. We'll do them in order of history. Tamaris, the leader of the Scythians in 530 BC. Katie Brownwell during the Civil War, 1860 to 1864. And
Bessie Coleman, first African-American pilot in the United States and worldwide even in 1920s.
bilingual Bessie Coleman that could fly an airplane. Amazing. Remember those people? This has been the Round Table Free Speech Podcast.
Power to the people.
Woo!
Thank you for listening or watching our podcast. For more information and to stay up to date, please like and follow our Facebook page at Round Table Free Speech Podcast.